Good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Caught in cup, hitting the cut again, man.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, we have our friend Arvina Martin here on with Emerge, Wisconsin, and just our all-around political fun person to talk to. Welcome, Arvina. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Happy Wednesday.
Yes, I see what you did there. Happy Wednesday. You are a pro. And I always have to say that you are one of the best because State Representative Heather Keeler does listen to the show. So I can't, it's just like telling your child, you're my favorite, but don't tell your sister.
Wink. Wink.
Yeah, exactly. So,
no shade to the honorable representative. I'm sure she is. Actually, I have listened to some of her episodes, or do we call these episodes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Represonic.
Yeah. And she is also, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she really, truly is. We're blessed to have her on, and geez, watch her grow in the political realm here in Minnesota and become such a leader. We are really blessed. She's a well-spoken Native and really for her people here, as you are. As being, I like to bring it up every once in a while, a little bit of your bio, but what caught my attention is one, your Ho-Chunk, which is a good thing, and and the second thing was that you were what we call city council member here in Minnesota. You were the first Madison, Wisconsin Native American woman city council member, and that's just amazing to hear because I love Madison and Madison's progressive, and I see you around all the Wisconsin Democratic stuff, and people really know and respect you, and I've seen you in action. So we here are blessed to have you on Native Roots Radio.
Thank you so much. You're going to make me get all teary.
Well, it is an emotional thing, and it's an emotional time, too. We had our powwow this past weekend. You were missed, and yeah, I know you had a little FOMO. I saw that on Facebook, but, taking care of business like you do in a good way.
Yep. I had, for folks that didn't hear, I had been exposed to COVID. And so I was trying to do the responsible thing and stay at home. So not to, potentially pass on any germs to any of our friends and relatives, particularly our elders or any immunosuppressed folks, or, I don't want to pass it on. So I stayed home. I was responsible.
Yeah, and it's amazing, too. I was at the State Fair in Minnesota, and what was amazing about that, Arvina, was that they had record days. They had 200,000 people. It was really people-y, and I'm thinking, geez, I should be wearing a mask here because I'm 2 inches away from somebody I don't even know. So I really appreciate what you do for our community and also especially our elders and the people that are possibly prone to getting COVID.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of the right thing to do, I guess, even though that meant I was sitting at home all by myself instead of powwowing it up with everybody and going to the amazing programming that was happening, that the Democratic Party and folks were having in conjunction with the powwow.
Yeah, they had the day before I came on Monday, and the day before I believe they had cook there, and that's awesome to talk business and teach our white allies what it's like to be Ho-Chunk and Native in this country, and we need all the allies we can get.
Absolutely, and the district that Rebecca Cook is looking to represent, I believe, the Wisconsin's 3rd congressional district, currently a seat held by Derek Van Orden, who is a guy who has been scolded for yelling at high school students and college students that are pages on the Senate floor. He has yelled at public librarians. He's not a great dude. And so having somebody like Rebecca Cook, who, I know that she has, she's a waitress, she understands, the problems that regular folks are going through, and doesn't yell at random children that she happens to come across.
Right. And it's good when we have politicians in either state or anywhere nationally to reach out to us and want to discuss things like she did. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's huge for us. That's huge for them. And it's the government to government thing that we talk about that we would lose with this project 2025 because of our sovereignty.
Oh, absolutely. And you're absolutely right about candidates coming out to events that where there are Native people and where Native people are the majority, and to kind of put themselves into a different community shows than they're used to, or than they are usually prone to participate in, for lack of a better term at the top of my head. Excuse me. But, it really helps strengthen both those government to government ties, because they are meeting with government officials, but at the same time meeting with folks that we would consider grassroots or grass tops folks, just the regular everyday people, and understanding that you need to talk to the people and you need to talk to the tribal government, and you absolutely 100% need to do both if you are going to represent that community in an appropriate way.
Absolutely. And while you were speaking, I was thinking what's really changed here in Minnesota has, our relatives and we're with good reason really get bothered by politicians when they only come by for their votes. But I really believe that hasn't been the case these last 4 to 6 years here in Minnesota, especially with the governor and lieutenant governor visiting the 11 nations here in Minnesota on a constant basis.
Yeah. And, that's such an important part of understanding what your legislation is doing in the communities that you are trying to serve. You have to be in those communities. You can't just go visit them, in order to get votes or to get money to run for office further. You need to see the impacts that your policy agenda is having on the community or many communities, because the impact isn't always going to be the same. And perhaps visiting a community like Native communities in Wisconsin or Minnesota, you're getting a completely different snapshot than if you are looking at, rural central Wisconsin or looking at, very urban Milwaukee. It's just a completely different community of people. And just, it's showing I hate the term cultural competency, because I feel like that's selling it so short, but kind of a form of understanding how our communities work and knowing that you need to be there and be present in order for for your work to really, for you to make sure that you're making the best decisions for the community, because you're aware of what the issues are, what people are talking about, because you've been present.
Yeah, and we really, really appreciate that. And that makes my job easier. I think your job easier, too, in a lot of respects, that, we just aren't used for votes, because we have changed a lot of elections in the last couple cycles. And that's exciting to be a part of that. Hey, I'm here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin. And we're going to be right back after this short break. Blake, this short break. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio.
Hi, it's Angela Warner. The Warner family is pretty serious about the fair. The food, the fun, the family time. But Warner Stallion has another fair tradition. Back when we used the fairgrounds as our warehouse, these weeks meant clearing out all of our appliances for a mega sale. And that tradition stuck. Right now, during Savings on a Stick, you'll save up to 50% off regular prices. And then we add a bonus for each one you buy for up to $1,200 instant savings. State Fair Savings on a Stick, only at Warner Stallion Appliance.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot. I want to talk to you about the rising energy costs and how you can manage them with the help of 952 Windows. Many people have plenty of insulation in their roof and attic, but the next significant step for energy savings is installing energy-efficient windows and doors. My good friend owns 952 Windows, a part of Loyal Home. They did a remodeling job on our home 20 years ago and definitely did a better job than the other guys. I've talked to neighbors over the years that experienced contractor problems with those other guys, especially when their window and door upgrades fell short in quality and energy efficiency. But when we made our second floor addition to our home, we used 952 Windows and received an excellent price and exceptional workmanship. Since then, we've seen much lower energy bills. So for your next home remodeling project, go with 952 Windows. Trust me, you won't regret giving them a call at 952 Windows or 952windows.com.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by. Stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, I'm Chuck Manette, owner of Native Concrete and Masonry. With concrete and masonry adding substantial value to your home, it's always a great idea to repair your sidewalks or just add a beautiful new patio. Cracks or heaving in your sidewalks due to tree roots can be dangerous. Native Concrete and Masonry has helped clients across the metro to make their outdoor space safer and helped increase the value to their homes. For patios, sidewalks, driveways, or garage slabs, go to nativeconcretemasonry.com.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we have our friend Arvina Martin, not only our friend, but Ho Chunk's sister here, and we are the people of the Sacred Voice. I like to use this is radio, but I like to use my hand and my arm when I say Sacred Voice, but we're exactly. We have the executive director of Emerge Wisconsin, and I want to talk a little bit about this organization, and because we're really excited to amplify what you do, and Arvina, and let's talk a little bit about Emerge and what's coming up.
Yeah, so Emerge or Emerge Wisconsin rather is a part of the larger Emerge network where we have affiliates in 26 states. So if you are listening anywhere in Indian country, we could possibly have an affiliate in your state. And I run the Wisconsin affiliate, and we are an organization that recruits and trains Democratic women and non-binary folks that feel comfortable in female-centered spaces on how to run for office. It's a 6-month training, and you get the whole gamut, everything from, learning how to put together a doors list, or learning how to, put together a good fundraising ask so you can raise money to help your campaign, how to put together the perfect elevator speech or a stump speech that you can give and really make sure that your message is getting across. This is training that it's really valuable. If you are even considering running for office, you should very much consider applying for Emerge, either in your state, in Wisconsin in particular. Our applications here in Wisconsin are open now and will be open through November 17th, but don't hesitate. Get yourself in right away. We can start the interview process, and I'm really, really looking forward to making sure that we have Native women and Native folks represented in all of our classes, because it hasn't been the case previously.
It was interesting. We had a talk. We talked a little bit about this before the show, that we were with Sharice Davids and the Vice President of Ho-Chunk Nation, Daniel DeLong, and I, were on a panel. And one of the things that she said that was very interesting about being a congressperson was that once she was elected, she was kind of blown away by the fact that, everyone put their foot in one pair of pants at a time, just like everyone else, and how she felt like she belonged. And I think we, for whatever reasons, we put the politicians on a godlike status, and that we couldn't do that. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah. I mean, it is really important to remember that the people that represent you at every level of office are just as human as you are. And I think that it makes it, that realization makes it, you realize how important voting is in general. And how we are all just looking to pick one of us to represent all of us at this particular level of government, in her case, in Congress. And that people that serve in Congress are not necessarily, multimillionaires. Here in Wisconsin, we've got a multimillionaire California dude trying to run for Senate against Tammy Baldwin, and then we have Tammy, who has, been a public servant for the majority of her adult life. It's a different set of circumstances that lead to different worldviews, and considering all of those things about a person is really important. And when you're coming to a decision regarding your vote and how you're going to cast your ballot.
Absolutely. And I believe people that have been alive shortchange themselves a lot. If you connect the dots backwards of what your experience is, whether it's a teacher or working for other political people, or canvassing, or being a good student, and knowing how the government works, you have one step forward in a lot of people that are out there.
Well, what you're saying is not just reminded me of something that people, and your governor is a really great representative of this, is that public figures become avatars of people that we know, and in a sense, whether they're actual individuals we know, or if it's like an archetype that we're familiar with. And I was just thinking about how Governor Walz has become the archetype for at least people that I know to think about their favorite teacher. So I'm sorry for completely changing the topic, but that's what this reminded me of. And I think that says a remarkable amount about who he is as a human being, as well as a professional. And I think, sadly, we're to the point where we need to weigh people's, values, and not just their professional accomplishments, not just their policy agenda, but at the top of the ticket, we have, the prosecutor versus the felon. So, private lives have become a little bit more relevant than they maybe had in the past.
Yeah, and the opposite thing of that is people, like you say, that are coming from California to run in Wisconsin. don't have that a background, and I want to say folksy, but that's not the right word. Legitimate experience with people, whether it's a teacher or that's like you in your work dealing with people one-on-one. And we know the orange one has not really ever been in a normal situation. He's always been in private school. He wrote a book. I heard that he talked about himself and his hair in one of his 5 or 6 books, that he never left Trump Towers, that he lived there. He never left there, and he did all his work there. And how do you know what people are feeling and what the pulse is of your neighborhood or your nation if you're stuck in your ivory tower, so to speak?
Or your gaudily gold plated tower in the case of the orange one.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And to further that point a little further down the road, imagine thinking that is a badge of honor.
Yeah.
That you don't interact with anybody, that you don't have to do things that 99.999 etc% of the planet has to do, and thinking that that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's just a completely different mindset, and that's why I think that the change to Vice President Harris as the top of the ticket, I think it throws them completely, because they have never imagined, somebody like the president who put his nation before himself, and they never thought about that being a possibility.
Yeah, and what you're saying too, that they had to really recover. It was almost 2 weeks before they shook it off and started running again. And that's an amazing statement right there. I want to, because we only have a couple more minutes in this segment, I want to really jump into politics in the next segment, but I also want our listeners out there to know how to get a hold of you and Emerge. Emerge, and then also you were talking generally too about Emerge all over the United States, but specifically Emerge.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the reminder. I got to plug the org. So you can find us at wi.emergeamerica.org. You can find our national organization at just emergeamerica.org. And if you have any questions, if you are thinking about running for office, even if you're male or female, non-binary, if you have questions about the process, feel free to email me. My email is ARV as in Victor, INA, so Arvina at emergewi.org.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we get that plug in, because both of us get excited about what's ahead of us.
And rambly.
And we don't have Haley on to straighten me out and send me messages during the show. It's like, ask her what she wants to talk about. That's what Wendy, my wife, always says. Ask her what she wants to talk about. That's a really good idea. Hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, and we're talking politics, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and all over Turtle Island, and really in Emerge, Wisconsin. So we'll be right back after this short break. You are listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, welcome back. This is Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awakened. I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, our friend from Wisconsin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin. And this is the time we take off the gloves and start talking politics here nationally. So, and I don't mean you and I fighting, but we're just going to take off the gloves and throw down to our listening audience about what we're thinking and what we're believing in. But I have to ask you something before we get too far into this. I heard, and I don't know if this is true because, I've heard a lot of things and I want to talk to somebody like you that can set me straight. But in 2016, roughly at this time, Hillary was way ahead of Trump, at least in the polls. That talks a little bit about us not being complacent, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Senator Clinton, Secretary Clinton at this point in 2016 was ahead. I just remembered as well that her margins were within the margin of error. And that was not something that I noticed or that I had realized until, today. Actually, I had seen an article about how she was ahead, yes, but still within that margin of error, and that margin of error being like maybe 3 to 5 points can make things swing. But that is an excellent reminder for all of us to remember that polls are just a snapshot in time. I know I've said that so many times on this show, but just as a reminder, it says something about where we are at this moment, but doesn't necessarily translate into wins this far out, wins or losses, excuse me. So, this is the time to see that Kamala Harris and Governor Walz are kind of on the rise, and that they're doing well. And we want to carry the momentum of excitement forward. So like now is a really great time to volunteer, whether it's going to knock on doors. I mean, registering voters, if that is something that you can do in your state, hosting a house party to watch the debate. That the debate's coming up. We haven't even talked about the debate.
Yeah.
But, make sure that you're trying to help keep this enthusiasm up and keep it moving forward so that we can translate this into votes at the polls, whether it is on election day or early voting in your state.
And Wendy and I plan on voting early so we can help people, and I guess have a plan, right? Isn't that one of the themes we had at the DNC?
Absolutely. Having a plan is so important. And anybody that talks to me within a couple of weeks, like on the phone or in person, gets my same spiel about planning their vote. And so I will ask them, are you registered to vote? Yes. Oh, great. When do you usually vote? Do you vote before work or after work? And then they answer and you say, oh, you vote after work. Do you do it on your way home, or do you do it after dinner? Or, you get them to really think about what they're doing and what things they need to do in order to get to their polling place on election day, and make sure that their votes are counted that night. The research shows that getting folks to talk about it really increases their propensity to actually get out and cast their ballot.
Yeah, and we got to remind our young ones too, whether they're bringing their aunties to the polls or they are going for their first time. We really applaud you and thank you. And like we were talking a little bit about politicians, this is the same thing. Your vote really does matter. And I've been really on a tangent lately, Arvina, about schools teaching political science from day one as they do math and science, because I don't know where this started or if it never was, but the secret sauce is that we have 50% of the people that aren't voting and feel like their vote doesn't count.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for all of us that recognize the importance of voting for Vice President Harris and Tim Walz to make sure that we are being inclusive of those folks that maybe have never voted or that vote sporadically. I mean, this is going to be a vote where every single vote counts. In 2020, the Wisconsin vote, or the vote went to Biden by about 20,000 votes. That's not a lot. That's less than 3 votes per ward.
Wow.
Yeah. And Indian country can make that difference in a second. We just need to show up and do what we need to do and vote with our values and the things that are important to us as Native people, and figure out where that aligns.
And again, we talked a little bit earlier about Project 2025 being an assault on our sovereignty. And that's something that we need to let our relatives know that don't know that this is important and the big picture is important. And I've always said, Arvina, that we can, I'm not a one issue voter.
Yeah.
I was maybe when I was younger, but I see the big picture, and especially with our Governor Walz, who, did a few things that, Indian country didn't like, but the big picture is all the bills that we do like, and that we were able to push our Democratic relatives more progressively.
Absolutely. And we also have to remember that we are in a, 2-party first past the post election system. And so that it is always going to be whoever wins the best out of 2, as much as we would love to have ranked choice voting everywhere, that's not the case. And so you really do have 2 options, functionally have 2 options.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I worry about, people in states that are maybe swing states that think that, having a protest vote is the most appropriate way to use their ballot. And that is between that person and whoever they choose to include in that decision. But at the same time, just thinking about all of the things that are important to us,
mm-hmm.
As human beings, as Indigenous, as Native people, we work together.
Right.
And the me that is Donald Trump is
mm-hmm.
never going to understand that. And how could he then understand anything about tribal sovereignty and how we function when he doesn't understand the very basic principles of who we are?
Exactly. I'm excited, and we're both excited, and that's why we're like just gabbing. But it makes good radio. But I'm excited again. I love to bring up these positive things. Like last time I heard, it was $540 million that went into the vice president's coffers for election. I heard something like 45,000 people in Wisconsin, again, correct me, signed up to help with this election right after the vice president was deemed our next running person. And that kind of stuff I keep in the forefront of my head. It's us older people and the people out there say, oh, we don't need to vote. We do. And the young ones are. And they're going to say, Gen Z is going to save us again.
Gen Z has it together. I will not stand for anybody talking trash about Gen Z. As an Xennial, the cusp of X and millennials. They've really got it together, and their participation in this election is going to be tremendously important. We know generally how young Americans tend to skew when they vote, and really having this progressive vision for the future, I think, is going to be, a new demographic that everybody's going to want to get is that Gen Z, because once they prove that they're engaged as young folks, they're just going to stay engaged, and that's going to potentially change like the face of politics in the United States. It has the potential to, and this is not to put all put all the onus on our Gen X siblings and relatives. We all still have to do our parts as well. But to the point that you were making about 43,000 volunteers for Wisconsin Democrats. Remember when I just said that it was 20,000? This is more than twice as many people who want to volunteer. And imagine the impact if each of those 43,000 people get 3 people to vote that weren't going to vote otherwise. Like
it'll be a landslide.
It'll be huge, and it'll be not just potentially a huge margin of victory, but a solid representation of what the state wants, what the nation wants, what we all as Americans want, as opposed to votes with low turnout when you can't really extrapolate what people support if they don't show up.
I just had a sneezing fit there, Arvina.
I wasn't sure if I should say something or just leave it.
Well, this is live radio and how it works. I really, really appreciate you spending time with us, and the excitement's there, and we got to keep it up. And I just got to say this before I let you go. AM 950, which is the station that I broadcast from, and of course all over Civic Media and all over the United States here, we're having a watch party on the 10th, and I just got to remind people we'll be there, and we're going to watch, the crook go down by the prosecutor. Hey, Thanks again, Arvina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, right on. That was Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Merge Wisconsin. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio with Wendy with the Sacred Animal portion. Stay with us. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio here to tell you about the best window contractor in Minnesota, 952 Windows. Here's why I trust them in my home projects. 952 Windows is a part of Loyal Home, founded by former window light workers known for their ethics and quality. It's a top-notch remodeling company that's been flying under the radar for too long. They've even sold to competitors' employees who want top-tier quality for their homes. For the best in windows and doors, have 952 Windows take care of your next project. They offer the longest warranties and were rated Energy Star's most efficient in windows and doors. Believe me, I've known the owner for decades, so I can vouch for their excellence. They're not just about windows either. They're your go-to for roofing, siding, kitchens, bathrooms, and more. Plus, they've got you covered on onyx bath and rosebud cabinets. Trust me, you won't regret giving them a call at 952 Windows or 952windows.com.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers.
Sisters.
Sons.
Daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, it's Angela Warner. The Warner family is pretty serious about the fair. The food, the fun, the family time. But Warner Stallion has another fair tradition. Back when we used the fairgrounds as our warehouse, these weeks meant clearing out all of our appliances for a mega sale. And that tradition stuck. Right now, during Savings on a Stick, you'll save up to 50% off regular prices. And then we add a bonus for each one you buy for up to $1,200 instant savings. State Fair Savings on a Stick, only at Warner Stallion Appliance.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we're here with our friend Bob Lake from Red Lake. I guess I have to say that real quick once. And then also Solar Bear with the Solar News. And before we get going, Bob, I want to congratulate you on another award. I feel like every time you get an award, I feel like I got an award. So congratulations.
Yeah, that was from the World Resources Institute and the Bezos Earth Fund around the electrification of, the EV charging network. And, they mentioned the training of the Returning Citizens Initiative with the inmates on solar installations in the prison system. And they were just talking about all this stuff. And I was like, it's hard too, right, Robert, because the seven grandfather teachings and everything, it's like you got to have humility and you can't be bragging, right. It's like, it's so hard for our people, right? But I know that we have to let people know that we're still here and everything, but I just like have so much hard time with that. But I do appreciate it, and I do feel great that they want to recognize work. And I've gotten some great contacts out there for some more work to happen with the electric school buses for the kids around tribal country. And this is turning into now a national effort around the charging stations and the electric bikes and the glow in the dark bike paths that we want to do in tribal country, and all the stuff that's happening. It's just been really crazy. And so I'm really getting some folks that are really excited to support this work. And I'm very appreciative of those foundations, such as the Bezos Earth Fund and others out there that want to help Solar Bear, Native Son, implement all this stuff. So, thank you, Robert. I really do appreciate it.
It's amazing. We don't talk about your brother a lot, but I know Bill would be busting his buttons if he were still with us, and I believe he is still with us.
It was Bill that, I thought I was going to be a cop. I just thought I was going to be a cop. I thought I was going to be a cop like Bill. I thought that's what I was going to do with my life. And then, they were like, "Hey, Bob, we're going to hire you, but we don't have money right now. So you're going to have to just find something else to do for a while." And I went back to school and took a course on renewable energy and got hooked, and the rest is history. And I was like, I can't stop this. I don't want to be a cop anymore. I think there's other ways to help our people and consequently the planet. And I just felt like this was just a far more righteous cause to dedicate my life to. And so I'm so happy, though, Robert, to this day. Not that I wouldn't want to serve the people of Minneapolis and be a police officer, right. Do those same things that my brother and my uncle and my cousin Robert Thunder out there right now, patrolling the streets of Minneapolis right now. Big shout out to him and for all the great work that he does. But there's I just love what I do, and I'm so happy, Robert, that I found this path in my life, and I'm so thankful to the Creator that He put this in front of me. So. Yeah.
Just think, I hired you for a weekend too. Made you drive to Iowa and hand out T-shirts to people I didn't want you to hand them out to, and we had press passes and what was yours? Key grip or best boy?
I was best boy, wasn't I? Oh, I thought I was best boy. I think I was best boy. I was like, we had such a good time though. Yeah. And it's amazing how, the studio, we started this, you told me to come on in the studio. We're like, Bob, can you just talk about renewable energy and climate change and environmental justice? And I was like, okay. And we just wung it. And it turned into, and everybody just got interested now. And all of you, thank you for listening to the program and supporting all this, because it just has evolved over the years. It's been years now, Robert. And and just to see where the solar industry has come, the renewable energy industry, and all this environmental justice work. And, we were talking about all this stuff before it really, I mean, it was happening, but it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? The way it is now.
Yeah. Well,
it's on steroids.
This is our 8th year, and you were on the first year. So
I can't believe. And Robert, which I think is a perfect segue into the brand new solar data sheet, Robert. This just came out, and this is put out by the Solar Energy Industry Association. I just want to give some statistics out there, Robert. There are 263,883 people across Turtle Island, right across the country, United States, right now, that are employed by the solar industry, and I think that's incredible. I remember when this thing was down in like the 90,000 range or something. Like I remember it wasn't even.
And that was a big deal, and that was a big deal at 90,000.
Exactly. Today, over 6% of U.S. electricity comes from solar energy, almost 6 times its share a decade ago. A decade ago, Robert. This was 2 years. I mean, this is 2 years before, this started. The program started. That we started doing this together. I mean, that's how far this has come. I just think that's incredible. Number of businesses in the U.S., 10,000 plus businesses. So everyone. Your dollars do matter, and who you spend them with, and with those corporations that are switching to renewable energy, they need to lead the way, and we need to be able to spend our dollars at those places that are doing this. And let me give you a few. Meta is number 1, Amazon is number 2, Apple is number 3, Walmart is 4, Microsoft is 5, Target is 6, Cargill is 7. Remember Cargill, everybody. That's going to come up in a future conversation. I'm just throwing that out there, everybody. Kaiser Permanente, AB and Anheuser-Busch, and EVAS North America. So those are the top 10 corporate users of renewable energy. There is enough solar energy installed in the U.S. to power 36.1 million households. In 2023, a new solar project was installed every 39 seconds. Every 39 seconds, everyone. Carbon emissions reduced 222 million metric tons annually, equivalent to 53 million vehicles off the road, 25 billion gallons of gas not used, everyone. So remember, the whole concept of the Electric Tribal Nation project, right, or the EV project, was to explain to the fossil fuel industry that they can build these pipelines, right? But they're not going to win the battle, but they're not going to win the war, right? And this is a perfect example of this happening because 25 billion gallons of gas is not used. 3.7 billion trees planted. This is the equivalent of shutting 57 coal-fired plants, Robert. In 2023, solar became the first renewable technology in 80 years to make up the majority of additions to the U.S. grid, accounting for 55% of all new generating capacity. This is remarkable how much this technology, Robert, has come down in price. This is on par with natural gas. And I mean, this is going to be the future for the country. And we can put solar everywhere. Anyone can learn how to do this. And that's the exciting thing. It's so democratic. And so that's why I love doing this work. And Robert, that is the Solar Bear with the Solar News.
Big Peeny Gigi, thank you, and again, congratulations, and thank you so much for coming on all these years. It's been just fun hanging out and watching us both grow.
Yes, and like I said, Robert, get out and vote, get out and run for office, get out and start a company, get out and start a nonprofit. We're Native, get out and get advanced college degrees. Robert, you're such an inspiration. I've done all that. I've listened to your advice. And I suggest everyone else do the same.